It is game one of the NBA Finals, as we've been discussing, in Toronto. Yes, the Raptors will host game one against the two-time defending world champion Golden State Warriors on ABC, and getting set to call it alongside Mike Breen and Mark Jackson once again is Jeff Van Gundy back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Jeff?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Is, by our count, let's see if we're accurate, is this your 13th NBA Finals you're calling on ABC and ESPN, Jeff?
Yeah, that's what the ESPN people told me. So I really didn't. I'm not big on counting, but yeah, I've really been fortunate. I think it's Mike's 14th because Mark was coaching a few years. It's his 11th.
Yeah, that's right. So it's your 13th. So I guess it's kind of like your bar mitzvah broadcast, Jeff, in a way, up there in Toronto.
Yeah, lucky 13.
Lucky 13 for you. I will open the floor right now on what type of finals you think this is going to be, having seen Toronto beat the Bucks 4 straight, and obviously the Warriors minus Durant for at least the first game, perhaps longer. What do you see between these two teams, Jeff?
Well, I think it's going to be. I think Toronto's got a great chance to win it. With or without Durant. I think they have 3 huge factors going in their favor going into game one. Home court advantage, the health of their team. It's not just Durant. It's Cousins. It's Iguodala. And then also they have rhythm coming in. They've been challenged more in these playoffs. They're in a normal sort of rest and play ratio versus Golden State, who's had so many days off in a row. And it's impossible to keep your rhythm as an NBA team when you've been off as long as Golden State has been. Now, they have the rest advantage, but I think in game one, they're going to face a challenge of rhythm that I don't think will impact Toronto.
And in terms of what Nick Nurse could be crafting in the same way that he and his staff were able to craft something for Giannis, what do you think that they're most concerned about going into this series and coming up with a plan best they can to stop?
Well, I think, Curry and Thompson put such pressure on you in ways that most NBA players don't, in that obviously we know about their great shooting, but it's their movement without the basketball, how they are relentless running to open spaces, using screens off the ball. And so I think Nick Nurse and his staff's number one decision is how much switching do we want to do off the ball? People equate switching with being the panacea to good defense, and it's not. It may be easier at times, but it's not necessarily better. I think Nick Nurse has to decide what's best for his group. Do they do what they've done all year, or are the Warriors so good that they have to do stuff dramatically different? I think he'll probably err on doing what they've done all year, and I'm going to be interested to see how each coaching decision impacts the next coaching decision. So if you're going to switch more, Rich, matchups mean less, because the more you switch, the more the original matchup means nothing. And I think the one thing Toronto has going for them is they're a highly defensive-oriented group who has terrific individual defenders, and they're going to have to play excellent one-on-one defense in this series.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about excellent one-on-one defenders or excellent defenders, obviously, you could start a conversation with the entire NBA with Kawhi Leonard. Where would you deploy him, Jeff Van Gundy, if you were coaching this Raptors team? On who would you place Kawhi?
I would like him to be on Draymond Green, and that can hopefully negate the Curry Green pick and roll that often leads to Green getting the ball in space and having a 4-on-3 type decision to make, and he's outstanding at that. If you put Leonard on Green, you can switch the pick and roll, and Leonard can guard Curry effectively, and then Lowry's so strong and so tough that Green's not going to bully him. You don't worry about Green rolling you into the post or anything like that. The one thing you can't allow is Green to catch the ball in space with a numerical advantage.
And how does Durant change this? He comes back, and right now, as you and I are talking, it's been exactly 3 weeks, 21 days since he limped off the court in Game 5 against the Rockets. And as we all know, the Warriors haven't lost since that night. So how does he change the equation? He comes back based on everything we've just said over the last couple minutes.
Well, I think it all depends on where they are in the series, if and when he comes back. Now, I don't believe necessarily that he'll be back in this series. I've had guys with calf strains, and it is a very difficult injury to try to hurry back from. You know, you can have a Curry issue like a dislocated finger or something like that, but you have your legs. You know, Durant, like this idea that he'll come back 70% or 80% on a calf strain, I'm not sure you can do that. So I think it depends on if he can come back, and if he can come back, where they are in the series when he does come back. I don't think you bring Durant back and bring him off the bench. You might be able to do that with Cousins. You probably would do that with Cousins. But Durant, 2 championships in 2 years and 2 finals MVPs, and you want to re-sign him, I don't think you would bring him back off the bench. So I think these decisions that Steve Kerr may well have at some point in the series, really, really challenging decisions, because your number one job is to give your team the best chance you can to win. But there are other ramifications that go into those decisions.
Jeff Van Gundy here on the Rich Eisen Show. And let's talk about the coaching aspect of this here, Jeff. It seems that Steve Kerr has reached a certain status that many coaches reach in the NBA, that we just think he just rolls the basketballs out and his team wins championships. I guess that's some rarefied air sometimes that you're able to achieve. What does Kerr do that keeps this engine going as well as it has now, 4 wins away from a 3rd straight championship?
Well, listen, any great coach in the NBA that wins championships, their names are going to be attached to Hall of Fame players. You know, Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan, Pat Riley and Magic Johnson, Greg Popovich and Tim Duncan, and over, it's going to happen. So that he has great talent at his disposal doesn't take away from what a great coach he is. And I think what he does exceptionally well is he allows them to play with great offensive freedom and confidence. And at the moment of truth, he makes sure defensively that they are absolutely locked in. And I think in the Houston series, you saw him play and ride his starters and his top bench guys and play everybody huge minutes, because he knew there was no margin of error in that series. And then he goes to Portland series and he plays more people and distributes some minutes over a bigger cross section of players, because in that series he felt that was what was best. And so I'm interested to see what he does here, but there's no questioning that he knows his team very well, and he does it in such a humble manner that I have such respect for him and how he's gone about all of his success in the NBA, from when he was a player to when he was a broadcaster to a general manager and now to a coach.
And then his colleague on the other side, I guess, of the court. I mean, you look at Nick Nurse's resume, Jeff, and you could see, I mean, a 2-time British Basketball League champion coach, a 2-time NBA D-League champion. I mean, the Oklahoma Storm, the Iowa Energy, Rio Grande Valley Vipers are some of the teams that he has coached. And now here he is after getting the job when his predecessor gets bounced despite winning Coach of the Year or just weeks prior to it. What is going through Nick Nurse's mind, do you think, right now, Jeff?
Well, I think, because he was on the staff of Toronto in previous years, he realizes it's hard to get where they got to. LeBron James moves from the Eastern Conference to the Western Conference. Masai Ujiri, the general manager of Toronto, makes a really tough decision about moving on from Dwayne Casey, and then they change around their roster with, 3 new starters in Danny Green, Marc Gasol, Kawhi Leonard. And so I think Nick Nurse he's a very good coach. He's done it at many different levels along the way. But to backtrack just for a second, Dwayne Casey, I feel for him. Like, this guy put so much into the Toronto franchise, and he took them from mediocrity up until last year, and he was trying to fight through LeBron James year after year. And then right before they make the big trade for a true star in Kawhi Leonard, and right before LeBron James goes west, he's unceremoniously fired. And I just want to reiterate what a great job he did in Toronto to set the table for what Nick Nurse, Kawhi Leonard, Marc Gasol, Kyle Lowry, they're doing now. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the impact Dwayne Casey had on this run.
Yeah, it is obviously, I guess, raw deal could be one way to look at it, Jeff, for Dwayne, but he's there in Detroit. It's not as if he's staring at all 4 walls right now, but it's going to have to be a tough watch, I would think, the NBA Finals for him if he sits down and sees it.
Oh, absolutely. Because how delicate and fine the balance of winning and losing is in the NBA. And so here Toronto was maybe losing in the second round to Philly, but then the ball bounces 4 times and falls in, and they advance. And then down 2-0, they make a great comeback and go on, and now they're here in the finals. And they're here in the finals with a totally different team, a stronger team, a better team, a deeper team. And like you said, he bounced back great. And he's a terrific man and a terrific coach, but I don't think that makes it any easier to watch this finals, because he knows he had a big part in getting them, like I said before, from mediocrity to the edge of this, or precipice of this finals, and yet he's not able to take part in it. It's got to be difficult.
And then this is before I let you go, the last series of the year, obviously, and then the one that's still some July 1st riding on it. I mean, this whole regular playing season and playoff playing season, everybody is looking over the dashboard at July 1 and what it means. And if Durant doesn't come back and the Warriors win without him, what does that mean? And does Kawhi leave if he does win it all? And if he doesn't, does he still go to Los Angeles? What do you think is going to wind up happening based on this series in July 1, Jeff?
Well, I think all the free agents, particularly the premier free agents who can sort of dictate where they want to go, they have an idea of what they want to do, I think, all year long. But I do believe that circumstances can change, which can alter their initial plan. So, for instance, if Durant comes back, let's just say they're down 2-0, they go back home, he comes back, they win 4 out of the next 5 and win it, and he's Finals MVP again, does that make him more apt to stay or less apt to stay? I don't know his priorities, so I have no idea. But I think things that could happen over the next 2+ weeks can definitely alter the plans that Durant and Leonard have in their mind as of today. I certainly think that nothing is totally locked in.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't revisit it with you, the issue that we've discussed the last couple times you've been on this show, that you brought up during the broadcast in the regular season, about the Lakers having all options on the table, including trading LeBron away, with the latest ESPN.com deep dive article. I don't know if you got a chance to read it, maybe on the flight or not at all, about the current state of the Lakers front office. Do you still feel like that is maybe the best viable option for the Lakers to move on, Jeff?
My whole point on that was, I just think when you're the Los Angeles Lakers and you're 6 years out of the playoffs, everything has to be on the table. And one of the options was, how do you get the best possible roster put together that's on the same within the same time frame? And so it would take an incredible offer to trade what's still one of the premier players in the NBA in LeBron James. So I wouldn't think that was best, but I don't think it should be totally put off the table either. I think what you're going to see is, unlike many in the media, I think the hiring of Frank Vogel is going to work out exceptionally well. I think he is an outstanding coach that was given, when given a true NBA roster like he was in Indiana, he absolutely overachieved there. In Orlando, the patience was low and the talent level was low, and their health was poor in his 2 years there. So I think he's going to do a great job. I think he and James are going to do very well together. I think they will be in the playoffs next year. And I also think they're going to learn from some of their roster mistakes this year. The ball needs to be put in James's hands. He needs shooting around, and that's when he's played his very best. They need to put stability on the floor. Character matters in this league. Teamness matters. Selflessness matters. Skill matters. All those things I think they came up short with last year in their roster. I think they have the ability to correct those mistakes as they go into this offseason, and I think they will. And I think they're going to be a top 5 seed in the Western Conference next year.
Wow, Jeff. I mean, that's a Nostradamus right there. That's a rosy
think about
picture.
it, Rich. Last year when James got hurt, it's really not going out on a limb. When James got hurt last year on Christmas Day,
they were good.
They beat Golden State. I think he went out in the third quarter. They were in fourth place. I mean, the only thing they faltered when, during James's injury, and then when James came back, they stayed a mess from Christmas on. But before that, they were a very good team. And if James is healthy and they put the right components around him with a motivation level that I think is going to be high, I think people are gloom and doom on the Lakers right now. And if I was a betting person, I would bet the over, because I think they're going to have a very good year.
Jeff, have a great finals. Look forward to watching it. Really do. Thanks for the call, as always.
You got it, Rich.
You bet. You got it. That's Jeff Van Gundy here from Toronto on the Rich Eisen Show.
For more of the Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live, or download the Rich Eisen Show app.